Hi everyone, and welcome to November's YouTube Live. Sorry we're a little bit late on starting, just had a couple of technical issues, which always happens whenever you go live. If I can just get someone to comment, just make sure you can hear me. So today's topic, a big one, how to source cosmetic ingredients and build your supplier networks. I would say I get at least 4 questions a day on supplier networks, sourcing materials, where to get certain ingredients, about inky names, about trade names, at least 4. Probably a lot more. So we do have this presentation. You can get this from our YouTube live folder. It's in the same folder. If you've already got our Dropbox link, you'll be able to go in there and get the connection, get the Dropbox link to download all of our formulas and reports, including today's presentation. Now I've got some great hyperlinks in this presentation. I've already posted a couple of links in the chat bar for this topic. Like I say, we get so many questions on this every day. We've got Victoria in sales who deals with a lot of queries when they first come in. It's such a popular question. She's not a chemist, and as you'll find out through this presentation, there's certain ways to get the supplier details that you need, and we can't obviously give you our direct contacts, but there's loads of ways to get some great contacts. And we get this question so often that she's actually even got a standard reply for people to help guide them on how to build their supplier networks. But today's presentation, like I say, you can get this in our Dropbox folder. We've got lots of links in here that's going to give you some great tips on how to build those supplier networks and get the ingredients you're looking for. And like I say, another reason I've picked this topic is because we get so many questions on it. So I really want to help you guys out no matter where you are in the world. And remember, we teach in over 100 different countries. So sourcing great cosmetic ingredients is one of the fundamental things you need to do to create great cosmetic products. I have a saying, you can't make chocolate cake without cocoa. So you can't make fantastic cosmetic products without some amazing cosmetic ingredients. So in this presentation, we've also got a little bit of information about the Institute. In case you're not that familiar with us, our diploma of personal care formulation is of course internationally and industry recognized. You'll be able to get jobs from our diploma qualification. You can see job postings on our website. Actually, you can see all the employers that specifically list our qualification as something they look for when they're hiring a cosmetic chemist. So if you want to get that qualification and get a career in industry, or even just boost your knowledge and your supplier networks, of course, study with us. So let's start. First of all, I want to blow a common misconception right out of the water, and that is you can't expect to get all your ingredients from just 1 or 2 suppliers. I can't get all the ingredients I need from 1 or 2 suppliers, and I've got all the contacts, so why would you expect to be able to get all of your ingredients from just 1 or 2 suppliers? We get emails like that a lot where people are saying, I get so frustrated because I have to source all my ingredients from different suppliers. Well, that's what we have to do. And the other thing is, a lot of people kind of think that if they source from small suppliers, that they often question, why are you using ingredients I can't get from a small supplier? Well, because if you're just using what everyone else is using, what's great about your product? What's innovative? What's different? And of course, you can't expect great performance from your products if you're not using something a little bit different, something definitely different to those other small brands out there where you really want to make your mark and be noticed by consumers. And of course, if you want to compete in this marketplace, you have to have high performing products. And of course, that can't happen if you're not using some great ingredients as well. But I am going to give you some great ways to access some of the more specialty materials that you can only get from large suppliers. And I'm even going to give you some tips and tricks on how to get access to those materials without having to purchase the large quantities. So stay tuned, all of this and so much more in today's presentation. And of course, then I'll take some questions from the audience and hopefully help you build your supply networks and get the ingredients you're looking for. Now, another thing I want to talk about from the very, very start, this is really important. Again, it's another big misconception that we really need to make sure you understand from the start, is people often say, why do you use these funny trade names or these funny names for ingredients? Why don't you use the inky name? Well, because if you get different materials, or if you get what seems to be the same material but from different suppliers, it can be a very different material indeed. Some common examples, and I've even got videos on it. So I've got some video links. You'll see here, I've actually listed out in this presentation a few links where I talk about having the same inky can mean very different results, because even if you have a material like cetyl alcohol or cocamidopropyl betaine, these are just very, very common materials. if you get that same material, what appears to be the same inky name from different suppliers, you can have dramatically different results in your formula in terms of the stability, in terms of the viscosity. Definitely substituting those two ingredients in particular can have a big impact in viscosity from different suppliers. And of course, then you could also have issues with your shelf life. So we don't put inkies in our formulas for most materials, particularly where they're functional or active materials, because the same inky doesn't mean you're going to get the same results from different suppliers. So like I say, I do have a couple of videos. I've got the same inky, different results, where I run through some common materials that are particularly notorious for different results from different suppliers. And as I've just mentioned, cetyl alcohol and cocamidopropylbutane would be two at the very top of the list, and they're commonly used in so many like emulsions with your cetyl alcohol, even as part of a blend, or especially as part of a blend. Different blends from different suppliers, you'll get incredibly different viscosities in the finished product. And cocamidopropylbutane. Now, any of you that have formulated foaming surfactants will know how difficult they are to thicken. And you will know that cocamidopropylbutane can help thicken the viscosity of your surfactants. But different cocamidopropylbutanes from different suppliers can have a dramatically different result on your finished product. So you could find a formula that you prepare using the cocamidopropylbutane from supplier A has a very different viscosity and even stability and even foam profile when using the cocamidopropylbutane from supplier B. Now you might say, but hang on, Belinda, they're the same inky, aren't they? The same chemical? Well, the chemical structure, yes, but there's other ancillary agents that might be present. And when they're naming their chemicals, their materials, they conform to a certain structure, but there can be some small differences and other trace elements that might be present that can then have a very, very big impact on how that product performs in a finished formula. So that is why we use trade names. So a lot of people out there get frustrated by it, but we're actually using the trade names to help make sure you get the same results that we do when we prepare it in the lab. When you're sourcing what appears to be the same inky name from a different supplier, if your sample doesn't work out the same as ours, it would be because you've used a different supplier. That's how important it is, and that's why our formulas have trade names. So again, if you're very new to formulating and you've seen some of our formulas where you see the trade names, and you might say, but hang on, Belinda, I can only get my cetyl alcohol from this supplier. That's fine, but please prepare a sample, and if you get a different result to us, that would be why. So you may just have to adjust the formula based on the exact materials that you can source, because the grades do differ. And you'll even find, especially as you get more advanced and more skilled with your formulating and start to build your supplier network, you can even find the same supplier might have a certain ingredient that is the same inky name but in a couple of different grades, and that can have a very big difference in the formula as well. So you can get things like your C1030 alkyl acrylates or your carbomer materials, and you can get different grades even from the one supplier. And they can have different flows, they can have different neutralization rates, they can definitely have different stability, different sensory is another thing. There can be big differences there. So again, when you're writing a formula, you should be using the trade name specific to the suppliers you're using, especially if you're then going to hand that formula to a contract manufacturer. But also just for your own uses, even if you're creating your own batches, you should use the trade name, or at least if you're going to use the inky name or the product name from the supplier, put the supplier's details next to it, even for your own records. And again, this is simply because different inkies or same inky from different suppliers can give you extremely different results. So I know I'm really harping on about this, but I cannot emphasize it enough. And that is also why we put trade names in our formulas, because it's the professional way to write a formula, but it's also being very, very specific. You might remember even when you're a kid and you've got a red pencil from different packets, the red is slightly different. Same thing, okay? But in a formula, when you've got a multi-component formula, if you have a couple of different reds, a couple of different oranges, you can have a very different picture by the end of it. And that's exactly what happens with our formulas, which is again why using trade names is ideal. It's the way your formula should be written. If you don't have a trade name, if you're sourcing from a small supplier, at least put the inky or product name from that supplier and put the supplier's name in brackets even for your own records, but definitely then as your brand expands and you start to scale up and you might outsource some manufacturing, your manufacturer needs to use the same materials too. So be very specific so they know exactly what grade you've used and or exactly which supplier, so that they get the same results that you did. They get the same results in their large batches that you did when you prepared your small lab batch. And again, I cannot emphasize this enough, but that is why you'll see trade names in most of our formulas, particularly for the functional and active ingredients that really make a difference in the formula. So a couple of things I want to go through. Yep, so definitely you can watch those videos. So we have the same inky different results, which is an overview video. Then I have a same inky different results specific to cellulose. So this is one that a lot of people ask me questions about, cellulose in particular, because there's all different grades, and you can use cellulose to stabilize a formula, you can use cellulose to increase the viscosity, or you can use different celluloses for abrasive effects, you can use other celluloses for lash lengthening, you can use other celluloses for soft focus. Now, they all technically have the same inky name, but they have incredibly different results in the formula. The materials I use for lash lengthening mascaras, for instance, won't give me the results I need to thicken a formula. So again, we use trade name. And that video does demonstrate for you as well just how important using trade name is. Now, when you're communicating with your supplier networks or sourcing ingredients, you'll also need to take notes of particular trade names or use those trade names in your communications so that you can have meaningful and specific conversations with your suppliers. Even if you were to ask me a question about your formula, for example, if you don't give me some trade names, there could be, let's say you're having problems with your formula and you want to troubleshoot on some of it, well, there's going to be certain ingredients where I might need to know which supplier you've used. Now, also with actives, very, very important with actives, because different actives, you might have something that's a ferment yeast extract with another active tied in as well, but from different suppliers could be incredibly different results. So again, trade name's so important so we can be specific. And then I've also got a video checking cosmetic ingredients when inky gets it wrong. So again, a lot of people, especially when they're new to formulating, put too much emphasis on inky and not enough on the trade name and the truth behind the ingredients. So I've got a couple of videos there that will be really useful for you to watch to just really understand about this concept of trade name and why we use them and why you need them when you're talking, especially with your larger suppliers. So now, just remember that you can't expect innovative products and amazing products if you don't use some innovative ingredients and different ingredients to what's just standard out there, particularly from your small suppliers. So for a lot of small brands, there's absolutely nothing wrong, and in fact, I'd encourage you to source your more functional materials from your smaller suppliers in the quantities that you require, but then don't be afraid to go to the larger suppliers for the more special or active ingredients. Now, you might be saying, but hang on, Belinda, I only need 1 kilo of that active and I've got to buy a 5 kilo pack. It's just too expensive. I'd never use it. Don't worry, we've got some great sites you can go. So over in the chat bar, you should see we have the Facebook group, Cosmetic Raw Materials for Small Brands. Now, in this Facebook group, it's completely free to join. It's completely public. Suppliers, you're welcome to join it. Packaging suppliers, you're welcome to join it. And of course, small brands, it's created for you. Now, the whole point of this group is, many years ago, I was actually, this problem of being able to source ingredients is nothing new. And it's been around for a while. And I was in a conference in New Zealand, actually, and I was talking to a colleague with a small brand, and she was saying, it's just so difficult. We're a small brand and we want to access these materials and we just can't. And I said, actually, I was talking to someone earlier today. Let me introduce you to them. They want to use that same material, but they only want a kilo or so from a pack as well. Why don't you both buy a pack, split it, and then you can access this amazing material? She said, that's a great idea. Anyway, I introduced them, got along like a house on fire. They got the materials they wanted, and it gave me the idea for the Facebook group. So the whole concept of the Facebook group is you can post in that Facebook group the material. Again, use trade names. You really do need to use trade names so you get exactly what you want. So you post the trade name, you post your general location, so it can just be your state, your area where you are. Say you want to purchase, XYZ material. I'm in the Queensland area. Anyone want to split a pack with me? That way you can find other people. So for instance, if I'm in Queensland here, that way other people in Queensland who might want to split that pack, or someone even in Sydney, which is a state nearby, they can contact me and they can say, yep, I want to split that pack with you. So you can have this private message, and that way you can purchase the fantastic material, you can split it with someone else, you're still able to get hold of these innovative materials that's going to make a big difference for your brand. That's what the group's all about. Now, if you're a supplier watching this, we'd love you to post if you can provide actives especially, or even other functional materials in smaller pack sizes. So something that would suit a small brand producing anywhere from, say, 20 kilos to 100 kilos of finished product. You're welcome to post in that group, and we allow it publicly. Same with packaging suppliers. A lot of people want to use some really fancy packaging, but the packaging runs of 5,000 units or more. So again, packaging suppliers, if you're out there and you say, but hang on, I can provide you with 100 or 1,000 units, please post in that group. Post a picture. You're welcome to post. And the whole point of this Facebook group is to help put you in touch with others so you can split packs, so that you can access some amazing raw materials, and you can also get some great packaging without having to buy huge quantities. Of course, if you're watching this video and you don't have a problem with purchasing large quantities, you can go direct to the suppliers. But really, I want to give some tips and tricks for those of you who are a smaller brand who want to purchase in smaller quantities. Just remember, you can't really be a big successful brand, you can't build that name for yourself if you don't have a unique product story, which means you do need some unique ingredients, you need some unique performance, and you need some unique efficacy data and marketing claims to help your product stand out. And that is why you need to be able to source more innovative and unique ingredients. So again, we've got that Facebook group. Now, if you're a small brand and you just want to build your current supplier networks, and again, please don't expect to get all your raw materials from one supplier. You're going to need to go to several suppliers. So I do have over in the chat bar as well some handy sites to build your supplier networks from our Create Cosmetic Formulas website. We have a suppliers page there with about 70 different countries or similar, and suppliers from within those countries all over the world. If there's a supplier that you use for small quantities of product and they're not listed, let us know. We'll add them. And again, this page is all about you being able to source in small quantities from suppliers near you or in countries near you. Now, I do know that overseas shipping is expensive. We ship packs all over the world, and trust me, it's not cheap. But if you are finding some great materials from an overseas supplier, and if you consolidate your order, you get a few things at once, you'll find that it will probably work out quite economical in terms of you then having something that you can be quite unique with and have some high performance results that you're really looking for. So visit our global suppliers page. Our global suppliers page is on the createcosmeticformulas.com site. And of course, we have the Facebook group that's also really great for you to join and split packs with others near you. Just remember to protect your privacy. Don't post anything publicly that you don't want to be in the public domain, but definitely posting the general state or area that you're in, and that will really help you connect with others that you can split packs with. Now, when you're a student with us, I just want to let you know we do give you access to a database with thousands of ingredients in it and supplier details. Now, when you're building your supplier networks, you are actually able to source samples from these suppliers for free. But we want to make sure that you don't contact any of these suppliers if you don't have a bona fide or true intention of using the ingredients that you're asking about. And this is really important because suppliers will only provide you with a certain number of free samples before they say, hey, are you going to purchase from us? So don't abuse the privilege of these suppliers providing samples. And they will commonly want to know what sort of product or development you're working on before they'll send you samples, and they'll want to know that you're a legitimate business and going to buy from them. Now, if you're not going to buy direct, let's say you're going to get your products manufactured by a manufacturer, then it's a good idea to tell them which manufacturer that will be, or if you haven't found them yet, just let them know that you will let them know which manufacturer you're going to use when you get to the commercialization stage. So they'll provide you with lots of samples for free. They may require you to cover courier or postage costs, but they want you to use their materials. So they will provide them, but again, they want to see it commercialize, either directly, you purchasing directly, or let them know which manufacturer you're going to use, so that they can trace the purchase back to the sample they've provided you. And if they see you purchasing or a manufacturer purchasing on your behalf, they will happily send you samples for you to use in your projects. Because ultimately, how are you going to know how their material works if you don't get a sample? So they're more than happy to supply you with samples. That's how it works in the industry. Just make sure you let them know if the product commercializes and where. Now, when you're a student or a graduate with us, you'll also get access to UL Prospector. And this is a fantastic database where you can find all sorts of raw materials and also suppliers near you. Now, it's really important when you get your supplier networks that you don't share your direct contacts with anyone outside your organization. This is actually a privacy issue. And also, you'll need to make sure you build your networks with suppliers near you. So, for example, if you're in the US and you wanted to say to me, hey, Belinda, which supplier would I get this material from? Well, in the US, your contact is going to be very, very different to the contact I use here in Australia for Queensland. So you can go direct to the supplier's website and then type in your location and ask for a local rep to contact you. They are very localized in their pricing and also their information, so you'll need to find your own local suppliers. But hey, here's another thing that's really important. I started out not knowing anyone either. So the Institute's been around for 15 years, nearly 16 years. We're about to go into our 16th year, but I was a chemist before that as well. So I had to start not knowing anyone for many years before I started the Institute. But I had to build my supplier networks as well. And I did a lot of these tips and tricks, like attending conferences and exhibitions, talking to people. Make sure you go to suppliers days near you. And again, one of the great benefits about being a student, from the minute you're a student with us, you can join your local Society of Cosmetic Chemists as a student usually, and you can usually get some student discounts. Ask your local chapter of the Society of Cosmetic Chemists in your country. See if they have any student discounts once you start studying with us. And then you can start going to their networking events and meeting others. Now, you can meet other formulators, you can meet other suppliers. Definitely there's a lot of suppliers there. You can meet manufacturers, you can meet testing houses, you can meet all sorts of people at those events. So I really encourage you to start building your networks from the minute you become a student, so that when you are fully qualified, you've already got a network of people that you can go to for different materials. And of course, any troubleshooting or problems with material suppliers are more than happy to help you, because they want you to use their ingredients in your formula, because of course that's a sale for the material. And you want to use these amazing materials so that you have some really fantastic products for better sales results. So it works hand in hand, but definitely start building those networks early. Let's have a look. Other notes I've got. I think I might be through all my little notes. Again, you can access this presentation. Just email us, info@personalcarescience.com.au if you want a copy of the presentation. Just going to make sure I've covered off on everything here. Again, make sure you access your local suppliers, get their contact details, because they will want to put you in touch with someone quite local to you. You can go to the company's website. You can even post in our Facebook group the materials for small brands. You can even say, does anyone know who the rep is for, or who the contact is for this region for this material? And again, use the trade name, so it's very, very specific. Now, when you're speaking with your suppliers, remember to use the trade name in your communication so they know exactly which material you're asking about. You're best to ask them for a certificate of analysis or technical data sheet. One of those will normally do the job. It will tell you about composition information. You can also ask them if there's any formulation compatibility issues with some of your more special materials like your actives. Ask for the efficacy data so you can see the correct input to use to get the best results. They may have some formulation examples as well to really get the innovation going. And of course, then the other question you would ask is, can you get a sample? And what is the price? What is the minimum order quantity? And what is the lead time? These are the things that you would ask your suppliers. I actually do have that here for you in this list. So again, get a copy of this presentation. If you already have our Dropbox folder, this presentation is in there now in the YouTube Live folder. And that information there is so important for the supplier so that they know that you are a genuine lead and that you are genuinely interested in using their material. And of course, they will then happily provide you with information and a sample because they want you to use their material in your formulas. So that's it there. Now, of course, if you're very new to formulating and some of what I've been talking about sounds like double dutch, please join our free Formulation Fundamentals Masterclass. This is all your basic information to get you started with the right information, and then this presentation will make a whole lot more sense to you, and you'll see just how useful some of the tips and tricks I've given you today will be in building your supplier networks. So now we'll go over to some questions. Let's have a look here. Hi everyone. Yes, thank you for the comments. Yes, Hughes, definitely. Results do vary by same inky, different results. That's why I made a video on it. One of our China supplier links doesn't work. Thanks for letting me know. Can you please email the either info@personalcarescience.com.au or info@createcosmeticformulas.com with the link that's not working? Just remember, we've put the links there as a courtesy to help you find the suppliers easily. If a link isn't working, please let us know, but ultimately it's that company's website, so they may have changed something. But we'll happily update the link because we really do want you guys to be able to find the ingredients, because if you can't find the ingredients, you can't make the product. As I said, you can't make chocolate cake without cocoa. So please do let us know which link you don't think's working, and we'll try and get that updated for you. Okay, thank you. So does anyone have any questions about supplier networks, about building those supplier networks, about sourcing ingredients? Okay, for UL Prospector, the question is, for UL Prospector, do you need to have a business registered? If you're not studying with us, you will. If you are a student with us, we can give you a special password that you can use, and you can access it without needing a business. And they do this for our students and even our graduates because they know that you are genuinely interested in their suppliers on their database. So yeah, if you're not a student or graduate with us, you will need to have a business, but if you are a student or graduate with us, you will get a special password that will give you access to the UL Prospector site without needing to have a business. Oh, you look beautiful. Thank you, Kaisha. Thank you. When registering the product, do we need to input inky name or trade name is fine? Now, when you say registering, do you mean with the portal, for the EU portal? They will actually need you to put in the inky name, and that inky name, of course, needs to match the composition, and you would put the trade name and the information in your product information file. You would use a trade name in your product information file for sure. They do need that information because you've also got to put in the certificate of analysis in your product information file, and of course everything must match. If you're in the EU and you're new to EU regulations, we do have our EU regulations workshop, which is absolutely essential. Now, you can access this from our website. Go to the workshops page and scroll down to find the EU cosmetic compliance workshops. And again, if you're hearing these terms, PIF, product information file, on the CPNP, the product notification portal, just remember everything you put into your product information file must match. And one of the things that a lot of small brands have trouble with when they're creating their PIF, and of course it costs a fortune if you go through a regulatory person to do the whole PIF. There's no need to do that. You can actually generate all of your PIF for yourself, except for the final safety assessment. That does need a final sign-off, but you can get everything else ready to really save on your EU compliance costs with our EU cosmetic compliance workshops. We teach you everything. And one of the things you're really looking for there is to make sure that your certificate of analysis matches the trade name and your formula that's in your PIF, and of course then has to match the inky listing that you're using based on the composition that is present in the technical data sheet from the supplier, that then matches everything else that's in the PIF and the portal. So the short answer is you'd use your inky name, but you need to have the trade name in the PIF, and you need to make sure all the paperwork then matches with the composition that you're using. So that's it in a nutshell, and I hope I didn't confuse you there, but if you do want to learn more about EU regulations, please do those EU compliance workshops. There's a reason there's more than one workshop. EU compliance is very big, very involved, and we do teach that thoroughly in those workshops, so then you'll know exactly what you need to do and where you need to put the right information. Counterpart here in the Philippines is FDA. Does it apply to? Yes. So in the ASEAN countries, they will also require a PIF, and when they're registering it, they will look at that product information file, or if there's any issues with the product ever, they will look at that information file. So again, you need to make sure you got all your information, all your technical information all gathered together properly, and that composition information that you have from your technical data sheet or certificate of analysis. However, now different suppliers will provide the composition information in different formats. There's not one set format for our industry, so just be aware of that too. We have some people when they're learning with us, and we show several examples of how that information might appear. And I had a student comment one day, and they said, why doesn't my supplier's paperwork look the same as this? And I'm like, well, did you notice that in the course we actually show you about 6 different examples, and they're all different? So we're actually teaching you in the course how to find the information you need in different formats, because there is no one set format that the information has to come in, which means you need to get used to reading these information sheets, and of course we give you plenty of examples in those workshops, and even in all of our courses, our very first unit, we start getting you reading the technical information, because it's so essential that you can get the information you need even if it's in a different format, because different suppliers will provide it in different formats. And yes, you do need to put that information file together for ASEAN countries as well. Alcohol extracts as good as glycerin extracts in formulas. You would need to look at efficacy data, and again, that's one of the things, remember, I've listed out to make sure you ask your supplier for efficacy data, especially where it's an active. Sometimes you might get extracts that are what we call added extras, so they're really providing a marketing benefit, or they might suit a trend without efficacy data, and a lot of times extracts will be used as actives. So ask your supplier for the efficacy data, and of course you can run your own evaluation tests if you want to invest in that sort of testing, and if you have those funds. Otherwise, you can use the efficacy data from your suppliers. Remember, there are certain things you need to do. We have videos, we have free videos on how to quote the efficacy data correctly from suppliers, and we also do teach this thoroughly in our certificate in cosmetic labels and claims. So if you want to learn it thoroughly, please study our certificate in cosmetic labels and claims. Otherwise, you can get some tips and guidance from our free videos. But again, if you need more detail, more information, then studying with us is the best way to get the extra support. We do run a live students and graduates Facebook each month. It's exclusive to students and graduates with us, and that's where you can get some of your technical questions answered by us directly. We also have that Facebook group that you can post in. Now, this is exclusive. This is not the raw materials Facebook group. This is another Facebook group that we have for our students and graduates, but you do need to study with us to get all of these extra benefits. What about here in Australia? What paperwork do we need? Well, you need to make sure that your INCI list is correct, and of course you should be using a trade name. You should be using a trade name in your formulas, so that or if you're buying from a small supplier here, you'll need to make sure that you put the product name that the supplier uses, and ideally the supplier name in brackets. And again, this is even if it's your own records, because one day you might want to scale up and use a contract manufacturer, and they'll need that information. Now, in terms of paperwork, we don't have to register cosmetics here in Australia, and for instance, even in the US, you don't need to register your products, but around the world, all companies are required to make sure that the product they're putting on the market is safe and suitable for use. So this comes down to directions for use, it comes down to the way it's packaged, any flow restrictions, or the way it can be dispensed. Also things very, very important, that INCI list. So now, I've said same INCI, different results. This is why if you've ever tried to mimic a competitor product and you've just got their ingredient list, and you may get a very different outcome by using some standard materials that have what appear to be the same INCI. So you do need compositional information. And your formula should match up with that INCI list. If you're ever contacted by a regulatory authority, they will then require you to produce such paperwork to show what's in the product. But no, you don't need to register in the US, you don't need to register in Australia, but you are still legally required all over the world to ensure that your products are safe and suitable for use. Even when you don't have to register the product, you still need to make sure it's suitable. And of course, you need to make sure that INCI list on your packaging is correct. And again, we've got lots of free videos that gives you tips and guidance, or you can learn how to get that INCI list correct with our certificate in cosmetic labels and claims. And also the question about extracts, where we talk about efficacy and evidence, that's also in that certificate in cosmetic labels and claims. So there's a lot of information in there, especially for some of the questions that we're getting right now. Don't forget, you can contact us. If you already have our Dropbox link, you can access it right now. It's sitting in there ready for you. The full presentation, and of course I've got those hyperlinks in there. And of course you can post after this presentation if you're a little shy right now. I do go in and check the comments, and we can answer your comments there. Or you can email us for the Dropbox link, info@personalcarescience.com.au. And again, please remember that it's really important to build your supplier networks, even from the very start. Once you are a student with us, we encourage you to join your local Society of Cosmetic Chemists straight away, and that is so that you can start working on those supplier networks. And of course, the better you build your supplier network, the better you'll be able to source the ingredients you're looking for. And of course, use our Facebook group. You can post in there again, use trade name, use your general location, and say you want to split packs with others near you. If you are a supplier and you can provide some great materials in small quantities that will suit 20 kilos to 100 kilos of finished product manufacture. So again, if someone's only using 1% of a material, then it would be a 1 kilo pack that we're looking for. If you do offer small pack sizes, please do post to that group. It's absolutely free. It's all about helping you guys connect with each other to get small quantities of great packaging, small quantities of great materials, and access some of these amazing materials that you see in the videos that I present. And there's thousands of members there all over the world. So there's bound to be someone near you that wants to split a pack with you. So please, I encourage you to post in there. Do we have any other questions? Please do post the questions. Even if you can't think of it today, please do post the question later. I will definitely go in and have a look, and we can answer those for you. And of course, just contact us for this presentation with the hyperlinks in there. The hyperlinks gives you the access to some of those databases and the Facebook group, the small materials suppliers page. And again, if you source materials from a small supplier and we don't have it listed on that createcosmeticformulas.com suppliers page, please email us and we will add them if they're suitable. We will only put on that page companies that supply in small quantities for small brands, specifically small quantities that you can purchase in a shopping cart straight from their website. We won't put supplier details there where they provide bulk packs. That's not what it's about. We're about helping you find some of those small suppliers so that you can get formulating some amazing products with some great materials. So if there is no further questions, you're either super shy or I've covered it all for you and you've got some fantastic resources you can use moving forward. Please, I encourage you, work on those networks. I started off not knowing anyone. You've got to do some of that legwork yourself, even if you're a little shy. The more suppliers you get to know, the more materials you'll be able to access. And you can even contact some suppliers that become really good colleagues and ask them, do you know who supplies this material? And they can tell you which company supplies it. Then you contact the company, give them your location, tell them what you're looking for, and they'll get a rep in touch with you so that you can access these amazing materials. The more materials you can access, the more amazing your products can be. Thank you very much for joining me, everyone. Please give the video a thumbs up. Please leave any questions or comments in the chat box or in the YouTube once it goes on the YouTube page. And we reached 100,000 subscribers, which isn't going to be very relevant if you're watching this live from a year from now. There'll be so many more. But thank you so much for subscribing and thank you so much for watching. And of course, this is our last live for the year, so I want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a happy and safe New Year's break, and look forward to seeing you all in 2023. Happy formulating!